Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Mary Rose Gop, isa pong industrial psychologist and HR management experts. Ang topic po natin today is about video games, the disadvantages on our mental health. And sa later part din po, we added some social media effects on our lives. And I hope this material will be useful para po sa ating mga nakikinig today. Isinama ko na po ang mga sources ng ating mga materials so that you can always refer on the presentation or sa link para po ma-validate nyo yung ating mga information shared. At ito pong ating materials na ito is actually a material used by Cascade Art Studio. It's an art class studio, and we match the art therapy with helping sa development of mental health ng ating pong mga clientele. Okay po, so without further ado, akin na pong i-discuss yung mga information about the disadvantages of being addicted to video games. Tingnan po muna natin ang statistics. According to the information given to us, there's already 90% of school-age individuals engaged with video gaming. So mga karamihan, mga bata po ito. The good thing about the children being involved with video games, we can actually moderate them, how long they will be exposed on video games. Astoundingly and surprisingly, there's 70% of the heads of household mid-age of gamer, meaning even the adults are actually involved in the video games. Karamihan po are 33 years old who are already working, probably working, and up, okay? Now, also with regards to the games exposure, yung mga games po na ating nakikita, there are several kinds of games online and even purchased through mobile phones. Accordingly, as statistics, the Call of Duty, Black Ops, it has been played for 600 million hours. So if you look at it, napakahaba po niyan, which is equivalent to 68,000 years if you total the 600 million hours based on the number of hours per year or per day, no po. Ang ating pong source is under the information or in the presentation. This is as of 2010. It's a press release. So nakakatakot po kasi there's so much exposure for not only for the children, the teens, and even the adults. And it's not really very helpful with regards to mental health. It actually affects the lives of the gamers. One disadvantage is the games is very addictive. So usually, people who are addicted to video games, they spend more time lounging. So they don't get to be productive in the hours that they spend doing some games. Sometimes they set aside their physical health, hindi na sila nakakain, and then sleep is actually sacrificed. The brain is actually very active during games. Brain is actually acting out and processing a lot of information, pati na rin po yung mga activities. And if that happens, tendency is hindi ka talaga makakaramdam ng antok. So what is being sacrificed is your physical health as well as your mental stability. Now, another thing, through gaming, you feel that you are happy if you are winning. But if you are actually losing during the video games, it can activate even your emotions, no? It can even cause depressions. So you feel anxious when you are losing or upset. And lalo na yung mga interactive games, tendency is there are people who are also bad-mouthing the other gamers involved in the online games. So instead of creating a good community or a good environment for our teens, our children, tendency is mas bumababa yung kanilang steam and their motivation. So during the gaming hours, tendency is they tend to get focused on the challenges presented by the games. They wanted to play more, and tendency they get to set aside yung mga school works and even household works that we usually assign to our children. Pati yung social skills nila, nasa sacrifice because they don't actually relate or communicate with other people. Kaya yung social aspect nito, it's not really very helpful. Tendency is they compete and sometimes it's not a healthy competition. Of course, when we are doing some challenging task, tendency is na-stress tayo. So emotional stress leads to negative impact on our mentality as well our physical well-being. Kaya nga bumababa ang immune system natin when we are stressed. But if you look into the use of your hands, your use of eyes, tendency is kapag matagal na nakababad sa screen, lumalabo yung mata ng bata, nagkakaroon ng migraine at gayon din hindi nagmo-move yung other parts of the body. Kaya yung muscles nila nagde-degenerate, even yung elbows natin, sa wrist natin. Kaya nga may mga sakit na kagaya ng sa tennis elbow illnesses, yung mga nagiging brittle, tapos yung mga carpal tunnel syndrome, numbness ng mga fingers, may mga tingling weakness sa hands, kasi nga yung kanilang mga kamay ay stationary lang. May movement man, it's not very wide movement na na-exercise ang kanilang muscles. So, yung eye strain leads to headaches, and usually, if our eyes are strained, it results to fatigue. No? Pati yung ating buong katawan, nararamdaman natin na napapagod when we are strained, yung ating mga mata. So as I mentioned earlier, it can lead to insomnia because your brain cells are very active during the gaming period. Kaya nangyayari na wala lack of focus tayo with what are essentials in our daily lives. So ang nagiging active lang is our skills or yung ating mental skills. However, it's not in a way or in a manner that you're actually dealing with challenges of our daily lives. Virtual challenges lang ang nandoon. And we flashed the common illnesses, gaming injuries that actually are very prevalent for all gamers. Carpal tunnel, trigger finger, tennis elbow, Decubian tenosynovitis. So yung mga sakit na yan po, hindi naman po siya totally deadly, but it's not very comfortable and you may lose your capacity to use your hands. And sometimes, of course, that we use our hands sa ating mga tatrabaho. So it's very important that we take care of our hands because it's what we use during work. Now, ito ang pinaka-extreme. There's news already that there are people who died because of game addiction. No? So this one was a news from CNN by Katie Hunt. Man dies in Taiwan after 3 days of online gaming. It appears that this person was dehydrated because he's not eating so much, tapos hindi rin siya nakakainom ng maayos, nandoon na lang siya. Imagine, 3 days is equivalent to how many hours? 24 hours times 3. And then walang proper sleep, walang proper eating. So it will actually lead to that kasi bababa yung ating energy, and at the same time, some of your internal organs will not function properly, lalo na yung puso, no? Hindi lumalakas yung puso ng ating mga gamers. It's not limited to physical health issues. Another disadvantage is even with relationship. Minsan, nagtigas ng ulo na ng mga bata, we cannot stop them from playing and they will not actually respect yung kanilang mga parents. They don't have fear anymore for authorities if they become addicted with video games. So nagiging relationship issues. We mentioned earlier that even with those other players online, instead of being a good influence to those other players, tendency is nang nade-develop hatred because of the challenges presented by the games. And nagko-cause ng social disconnection. if we allow our children to play physical games sa mga kapitbahay natin, nadidevelop yung social connections. They learn how to communicate. But through video games, tendency is they blame the other players, shout at the other players, minumura nila yung mga ibang players dahil sa kanilang galit. Ano po? And they don't have a physical person in front of them. Hindi nila masyadong nakikita who are these people. They disregard the emotional rights of other people. Palaging natitrigger lang is their own emotions, their anger, their fear, yung kanilang mga hatred, which are all negative feelings. So nakakasira po ito sa health ng ating mga children and our teens. Ang isa pa, karamihan sa mga games ngayon, maybe you've seen this in videos, no? Ang isa pang nakakasira is nakaka-generate po siya ng tendency to be aggressive for our children. So, nangyayari po, if they don't have rationality, nawawala yung rationality ng isang tao dahil they wanted to actually put into reality kung ano yung nakikita nila sa mga videos, nawawala na yung sanity ng ating mga game addicted players, nagiging harmful not only for themselves but also for the community. Marami na tayong nababalitaan ng mga sa school, pinatay, mass killing, and there are even some instances na very similar yung mga videos na nakikita natin on the YouTube on how those terrorists or how those people, aggressive people done it. Very similar on how it's being done in the video. So parang nangyayari, they just are imitating what's in the video, parang nagiging correct na ito in their own mindset, no? But we know that this is not the values that we wanted to transfer to our children, to our teens. How can we help them? How can we help people na addictive pagdating sa games? So, one thing is, kailangan i-acknowledge muna natin that there's addiction. If you saw the symptoms like hindi na nagkakakain, laging nakahiga, tapos laging nakaharap sa kanilang cellphones or sa kanilang mga computer, desktops or laptops, ano man yung ginagamit nila for the gaming, no? Tendency is they're developing into addiction, to game addiction. So if you are seeing these symptoms, then you need to bring your children to pediatrician or therapist. Kung tayo naman, if it's with ourselves, lalo na mga adults or mga teens, they need to acknowledge that it's not healthy anymore kasi nasisira na yung mga relationship. Then you need to visit therapist, yung mga professionals talaga. Kasi the same din siya with other addictions. There's withdrawal tendency. So when this happens, napakahirap para mag-withdraw para sa mga addicted na. They need a physician who can talk to them, give them the right activities, no? Divert their attention and energy. Tapos kailangan marunong makinig yung bata kapag magko-consult with counselors and therapists para magkaroon ng consultation or ng counseling. Kasi if they will not actually listen, whoever is talking to them or dealing with them, tendency is hindi rin ma-address yung kanilang illnesses. Minsan meron po tayong tinatawag na therapy na between or kumbaga pinagtutulungan ng mga therapists like ng doctors or ng physicians together with the parents. Nagiging part sila ng treatment because the parents actually moderate kung ano yung number of hours spent on games. But if I'm the parent, I would select the games that they will play and then I would limit the time spent on the game consoles ng ating mga children. And for those who are already addicted, dapat talaga wala na silang nakikita because it will always trigger their need to play with the stations. Another way to prevent it or to cure yung ating gaming addiction is that instead of giving them game stations or digital games, it would be good if you divert them into art therapy o di naman kaya exercises, any physical activities that they can get involved with. Kung mahilig sila sa games, let them play chess with you, yung mga interactive games, snakes and ladders, yung mga dating games natin na medyo merong social activities and social interactions with other players and not just with the computer. Hindi lang doon sa mga gadgets ang focus nila. And make sure that they sleep on time, no? Na bigyan natin ng oras yung ating mga teens. Now, mga kabataan kasi mahirap nang i-moderate dahil they have their own way of thinking. So kung mga teens, we're dealing with teens, we need to make them see and realize why they need to actually withdraw from gamings, online gamings that can be harmful for them. So ask them to actually find something more productive na hobby instead of spending more time on the video consoles. Okay? So if you have any question about game addiction or anything, you can actually send to me and then maybe I can answer your questions through emails. Let's now look into the effect of social media on our lives. I will not be talking much about the social media, but I would be sharing with you a video prepared by a student from a social psychology class, and it's very useful. This video is about effect of social media on our lives.
So social media, as you know, is an app, a website that you can create a profile about yourself, and on whatever website you're on or app you're on, you can share and post pictures. Some famous apps that I know of and you may know of is Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. There's also like Pinterest and Google, things like that are really popular and out today. Social media affects our social thought. It makes us sad when we see people having fun and they post pictures of them at a party that we never got invited to on the internet. And when you get on Twitter, sometimes you see a negative post, and that negative post can stick with you all day. Or you see like something sad on Twitter or something sad on Facebook, that can stick with you all day and make you very sad and depressed and unhappy. Comparing your life to others, say you're on Twitter and you're scrolling through and you see this girl who just got her nails done and are so pretty. That right there can make you feel very sad because you're like, oh man, I need to go get my nails done because I'm not pretty enough like her. That right there is making your self-esteem lower than probably what it is, or making it worse than what it is, because you are trying to compare yourself to someone on the internet who's just probably trying to post that to get a bunch of likes and get people to see what she got done and think that maybe she's rich or something. And you're just making yourself feel really bad when you are probably the perfect person ever. Thinking you have so many friends on social media can really put you down, because when you're in need of help or crisis or someone to talk to and you think your friends on social media are always going to be there, they're not. And when you are on Facebook and you have like 1,000 plus friends, some of those people actually might not be your friends. You might see them in public and be like, hey, what's up, dude? And they might be like, hi. And then you'll get really sad because you'll realize, oh, they're your friend on social media, but in person, they're not your friend at all. They just don't care as much as you cared. You know, you put more interest into relationships and friendships on social media than like in person, and you have to be flashy. And sometimes we put our happiness on social media, but in reality, we're really sad and depressed and unhappy. So going on to increasing your trust with strangers that are your friends on social media. You could have met this girl on social media like 5 years ago and you guys been friends ever since, but you've never met in person, and you trust her with all your life. But then she goes and posts something on the internet about you that you told her not to tell anyone. That could really break your heart and break your trust. But that should also make you realize that you shouldn't put all your trust into someone that you meet on social media, because one, they could be a catfish and not the person they say they are. And two, you shouldn't trust someone on social media, honestly. Like, if you haven't met them in person, you shouldn't trust them on social media. So social media affects our social behavior. The first way I want to talk about is difficulty communicating. So social media can really make a big difference in the way you act when you communicate to people, because I've noticed that like when we're texting, we like put words like LOL and LMAFO and stuff like that. And then sometimes when we're talking to someone and realize, oh, we're having a real human conversation and not a text conversation, sometimes we say LOL, and grown-ups are like, what is LOL? Why did you say that? Instead of actually laughing. So I realized kids have difficulty communicating with people and actually laughing instead of saying LOL. You know what I mean? And then also anxiety. Anxiety is a big thing with social media because people worry too much about what other people are going to post or what other people will say about them or what people are saying and they think it's about them. Anxiety really affects people when it comes to social media because we're just on it constantly worrying what other people are doing, what other people are saying. Like if we have a boyfriend and we're like, what's he liking? What's he doing? What's he saying? Who's he talking to? That can play a big role and give us some anxiety and worry about when it comes to our boyfriend on social media. And then also being addicted to social media can play a big role in our social behavior because say if we're having a conversation with our best friend and she's telling us something so important, but yet we're on our phone just looking at it constantly, like trying to see what's new, what's cool, what everyone's doing, is like us just having our face shoved in our phone because we're so interested in social media, and like that affects us. Now, social media affects us on our sleep is a big thing because we go to sleep with our bed or our phone next to our bed. And so in the middle of the night, we'll wake up and look at our phone and then we're like, hey, what's on social media? Let's go look. And then we're on social media just like scrolling through, looking to see what people are posting. And then it takes us hours and hours to go back to sleep. Because I know I've done that before and it takes me hours to go back to sleep because I looked at my phone. Now, sometimes some people have eating habits when it comes to social media because we'll see a pretty girl on social media who's very fit and we're like, yeah, I want to get like her too. I want to get fit. Yeah, that looks sweet. But then we end up starving ourselves too much or eating way too much because we want to be just like someone on social media because they're maybe our role model or someone we look up to, and we're just like, yeah, I want to be just like them. I'm going to be fit and all this other stuff. And that really messes with our behavior because it's like it makes us be something that we're not. So we change ourselves to be like someone else. So we're comparing ourselves when we shouldn't be, and like it makes us act different and just really affects what we should be doing. So I put some examples for some social behavior for social media. When boys or girls go to like the Cheesecake Factory, for example, and they all sit down in a circle and they're all on their phones. Every single person is on their phone, not engaged or having a conversation with each other like people actually do. That right there shows that their behavior is so unreal because they are so connected to their phone, not connected to the conversation or the people around them, or actually having a good time and talking about interesting topics that are interesting, honestly. Another example is when a little girl's on her phone and her mother's actually having, like, talking to her. I've noticed this a lot. Like, when parents are talking to their children and their child is like really on their phone having a total different conversation with another person, their parent tends to stop the conversation and just keep doing what they're doing, not even worry about the child being on their phone. And they just kind of get irritated because the child's not even paying any attention to what they're saying. So the mom just keeps going back to what she's doing because the kid is so addicted to their phone that they're not even paying attention to what's going on around them. So some interesting facts that I found about social media are some people have selecting posting. So what I mean by that is that people select certain things that they want to put on their social media to make it seem like they have a good life and that they're having fun and that their life is literally spontaneous. And when other people that are at home on their phone looking at that can get sad and get upset about it and just get really depressed about it because they want to be like that too, but at the same time, that's them comparing themselves to the person who's doing the selective posting. Another one is social media can make a person look happier than what they are. So I have a story about this girl. She actually killed herself because she was at college. She was a track star. She was so happy, the happiest girl ever, great runner, pretty person. And on social media, she would put happy stuff, post happy things, and like make her life seem like it was the most amazing thing. But when her parents would talk to her, she would just tell them that she's all right. She's okay. Everything's going fine. College is fine. She's not stressed out. But then I guess a month or so after, she jumped off a building and killed herself. And it's actually a very sad story. And I just after I heard that story, I went and found her social media on Instagram, and her postings were so happy. Like, she looked like such a happy person. It just kind of makes you sit there and think, what was really going through this girl's head? Why didn't she ask for help? Like, what was going on? Why was she so happy on social media? But the way she was actually thinking was just like she was sad, you know? Makes you wonder sometimes. Another one is people spend 5 to 10 hours on social media. 50% of people sleep with their phones next to their bed. Teens check their phones 100 plus times a day. And people text and drive all throughout the day, causing accidents.
Okay, so yan po yung ating video. So please excuse the examples. And if you notice, disadvantages are very similar with what are the disadvantages of gaming. That's something to do with your health, your physical health, and your mental well-being. Ang gusto ko lang i-emphasize on the video was the anxiety that was actually imposed. And tendency is you acknowledge what the social media see as right. Wherein, hindi naman talaga dapat yun yung mga binavalue natin. Hindi dapat yun yung mga pinangangalagaan natin na information. We use the social media to spread the good words of God. We use the social media to spread the opportunities for people to listen sa ating mga magagandang pinag-aaralan. Comes to what's happening outside, hindi yun yung dapat na nagiging basihan natin or we compare ourselves to other people kung ano yung sa kanila ay tama, maganda. It's not the same thing with what we value. So yun po yung gusto kong sana i-emphasize that with regards to social media, we need to do it in moderation. We need to see saan sila magiging useful. We are given the technology so that we can actually maximize in sharing and exhibiting and producing good deeds. Even in social media, sa Facebook na lang, yung kanilang problema sa family, problema sa parents, problema sa kanilang mga kasambahay, shout out pa nila, which is actually, it causes a bad image for your family. Instead of you protecting your family, tendency is na i-vent out mo pa pati mga bagay na hindi mo dapat na ipinopost. So, kailangan alam din natin na kung ano yung mga dapat natin na inilalagay sa ating mga social medias, yung mga information about us. If our social media get hacked, tendency is even our banks or yung mga accounts natin, mga credit cards natin can get hacked. So it can actually destroy us, bring us down because of those hackers, no? So we should be very careful on how we utilize the social media. It should be considered as a tool for us. It should not actually control our lives. at hindi dapat ito yung kumbaga ay magpapaandar na o magpapatakbo sa ating mga buhay. Okay, salamat po ng marami. Salamat sa Diyos sa pagkakataong pinagkaloob niyo sa amin para po kami ay makapag-share ng mga nalalaman namin. At sa Diyos po ang lahat ng kapurihan. Magandang araw pong muli sa inyong lahat.